Chapter 3. Examiner Chow picks out true talent. Butcher Hugh cuts up rough after good news. When Chow Chin fell senseless to the ground, his friends were taken greatly aback, thinking he must be ill. "I suppose this place must have been shut down so long that the air is bad," said the guild head. "That must be why he has collapsed." "I'll hold him," said Chin to the guild head. "Will you go and get some hot water from the workmen over there to bring him to?" When the guild head had brought back the water, 3 or 4 of the others raised Chow Chin up and poured water down his throat until he gave a gurgle and spat out some phlegm. "That's better," he said, and helped him to his feet. But when Chow Chin saw the disc, he beat his head against it again. Only, instead of falling unconscious, this time he burst into loud sobbing. Not all their entreaties could stop him. "Are you out of your mind?" demanded Chin. "We came to the examination school to enjoy a bit of sightseeing. Nobody has died in your family. Why take on like this?" But Chow Chin paid no attention. He just leaned his head against the desk and went on crying. After crying in the first room, he rushed over to cry in the second, and then the third, rolling over and over on the floor till all his friends felt sorry for him. Seeing the state he was in, Chin and the guild head tried to lift him up, one on each side, but he refused to budge. He cried and cried until he spat blood. Then all the others lent a hand to carry him out and sit him down in a tea house in front of the examination school. They urged him to drink a bowl of tea, but he just went on sniffing and blinking away his tears, looking quite heartbroken. "What's the trouble, Mr. Chow?" asked one of them. "What's made you cry so bitterly in there?" "I don't know. I don't think you realize, gentlemen," said Chin, "that my brother-in-law is not really a merchant. He has studied hard for scores of years, but never even passed the prefectural examination. That's why the sight of the provincial examination schools today upset him." Touched on the raw like this, Chow Chin let himself go and sobbed even more noisily. "It seems to me you're the one to blame, Chin," said another merchant. "If Mr. Chow was a scholar, why did you bring him on such business?" "Because he's hard up," said Chin. "He had lost his job as a teacher. There was no other way out for him." "Judging by your brother-in-law's appearance," said another, "he must be a very learned man. It's because nobody recognizes his worth that he feels so wronged." "He's learned all right," said Chin, "but he's been unlucky." "Anybody who buys the rank of scholar of the Imperial College can go for the examination," said the man who had just spoken. "Since Mr. Chow Chin is so learned, why not buy him a rank so that he can take the examination? If he passes, that will make up for his unhappiness today." "I agree," rejoined Chan. "But where's the money to come from?" By now Chow Chin had stopped crying. "That's not difficult," said the same merchant. "We're all friends here. Let's raise some money between us and lend it to Mr. Chow so that he can go for the examination. If he passes and becomes an official, a few taels of silver will mean nothing to him. He can easily repay us. Even if he doesn't pay us back, we merchants always fritter away a few taels one way or another. And this is a good cause. What do you all say?" The others responded heartily, "A friend in need is a friend indeed!"
"A man who knows what is the right thing to do, but doesn't do it, is a coward."
"Of course we'll help. We only wonder if Mr. Chow will consent to help. Of course we'll help. We only wonder if Mr. Chow will condescend to accept." "If you do this," cried Chow Chin, "I shall look on you as my foster parents. Even if I become a mule or a donkey in my next life, I shall repay your kindness." Then he knelt down and kowtowed to them all, and they bowed down to him in return. Chin thanked them too. They drank a few more bowls of tea, and Chow Chin no longer cried, but talked and laughed with the others until it was time to return to the guild. The next day, sure enough, the 4 merchants raised 200 taels of silver between them. This they gave to Chin, who promised to be responsible for any expenses over and above that sum. Chow Chin thanked them again, and the guild head prepared a feast for the merchants on Chow Chin's behalf. In the meantime, Chin had taken the silver to the provincial treasury. As luck would have it, it was just in time for the preliminary test for the provincial examinations. Xiao Chen took the test and came first of all the candidates from the Imperial College. On the 8th of the 8th month, he went to the examination school for the provincial examination, and the sight of the place where he had cried made him unexpectedly happy. As the proverbs say, joy puts heart into a man. Thus he wrote 7 excellent examination papers, then went back to the guild. For Chin and the others had not yet completed their purchases. When the results were published, Xiao Chen had passed with distinction, and all the merchants were delighted. They went back together to Winshan County, where Xiao Chen paid his respects to the magistrate and the local examiner, and the officials sent in their cards and called to congratulate him. Local people who were no relations of his claimed relationship, and perfect strangers claimed acquaintanceship. This kept him busy for over a month. Then Shinhei Sangfu heard the news. He got the villagers in Husei Market to contribute to buy 4 chickens, 50 eggs, and some bowls of rice. Then went to the county seat to congratulate Xiao Chen, who kept him to a feast. Mr. He's son, it goes without saying, came to pay his respects too. Soon it was time to go to the examination in the capital. Xiao Chen's traveling expenses and clothes were provided by Chen. He passed the metropolitan examination too, and after the palace examination he was given an official post. In 3 years, he rose to the rank of censor and was appointed Commissioner of Education in Guangdong Province. Now, though Xiao Chen engaged several secretaries, he thought, I had bad luck myself so long. Now that I am in office, I mean to read all the papers carefully. I mustn't leave everything to my secretaries and suppress real talent. Having come to this decision, he went to Canton to take up his post. The day after his arrival, he burnt incense, posted up placards, and held 2 examinations. The 3rd examination was for candidates from Nanhai and Panyu counties. Commissioner Chow sat in the hall and watched the candidates crowding in. There was young and old, handsome and homely, smart and shabby men among them. The last candidate to enter was thin and sallow, had a grizzled beard and was wearing an old felt hat. Guangdong has a warm climate. Still, this was the 12th month, and yet this candidate had on a linen gown only. So he was shivering with cold as he took his paper and went to his cell. Xiao Chen made a mental note of this before sealing up their doors. During the first interval, from a seat at the head of the hall, he watched this candidate in the linen gown come up to hand in his paper. The man's clothes were so threadbare that a few more holes had appeared since he went into the cell. Commissioner Chow looked at his own garments, his magnificent crimson robe and gilt belt. Then he referred to the register of the names and asked, Are you a Fan Chin, aren't you? Kneeling, Fan Chin answered, Yes, Your Excellency. How old are you this year? I am the age of 30. Actually, I'm 54. How many times have you taken the examination? I went in for it first when I was 20, and I have taken it over 20 times since then. How is it that you have never passed? My essays are poor, replied Fan Chin, so none of the honorable examiners will pass me. That may not be the only reason, said Commissioner Chow. Leave your paper here, and I will read through it carefully. Fan Chin kowtowed and left. It was still early and no other candidates were coming to hand in their papers, so Commissioner Chow picked up Fan Chin's essay and read it through. But he was disappointed. Whatever is this fellow driving at in this essay, he wondered. I see now why he never passed, he thought. He put it aside. However, when no other candidates appeared, he thought, I might as well have another look at Fan Chin's paper. If he shows the least talent, I'll pass him to reward his perseverance. He read it through again, and this time he felt there was something in it. He was just going to read it through once more when another candidate came up to hand in his paper. This man knelt down and said, Sir, I beg for an oral test. I have your paper here, said Commissioner Chow kindly. What need is there for an oral test? I can compare poems in all the ancient styles. I beg you to set a subject to test me. The commissioner frowned and said, Since the emperor attaches importance to essays, why should you bring up the poems of Han and Tang dynasties? A candidate like you should devote all your energy to writing compositions, instead of wasting all your time on heterodox studies. I have come here at the imperial command to examine essays, not to discuss miscellaneous literary forms with you. This devotion to superficial things means that your real work must be neglected. No doubt your essay is nothing but flashy talk, not worth the reading. Attendants, drive him out. At the word of command, attendants ran in from both sides to seize the candidate and push him outside the gate. But although Commissioner Chow had had this man driven out, he still read his paper. This candidate was called Wei Hao Chu. This candidate was called Wei Hao Ku. This candidate was called Wei Hao Chu. This candidate was called Wei Hao Chu. This candidate was called Wei Hao Chu. And he wrote in a tolerably clear and straightforward style. I will pass him lowest on the list, Chow Chen decided, and taking up his brush, he made a mark at the end of the paper as a reminder. Then he read Fan Chen's paper again. This time he gave a gasp of amazement. Even I failed to understand this paper the first 2 times I read it, he exclaimed. But after reading it for the 3rd time, I realized it is the most wonderful essay in the world. Every word a pearl. This shows how often bad examiners must have suppressed a real genius. Hastily taking up his brush, he carefully drew 3 circles on Fan Chen's paper, marking it at first. He then picked up Wei Hao Q's paper again and marked it as 20th. After this, he collected all the other essays and took them away with him. Soon the results were published, and Fan Chen's name was first on the list. When he went to see the commissioner, Chow Chen commended him warmly. And when the last successful candidate, Wei Hao Q, went in, Commissioner Chow gave him some encouragement and advised him to work hard and stop studying miscellaneous works. Then, to the sound of drums and trumpets, the successful candidates left. The next day, Commissioner Chow set off for the capital. Fan Chen alone escorted him for 10 miles of the way, doing reverence before his chair. Then the commissioner called him to his side. "First-class honors go to the mature," he said. "Your essays show real maturity, and you are certain to do well in the provincial examination too. After I've made my report to the authorities, I will wait for you in the capital." Fan Chen kowtowed again in thanks, and stood to one side of the road as the examiner's chair was carried swiftly off. Only when the banners had passed out of sight behind the next hill did he turn back to his lodgings to settle his bill. His home was about 15 miles from the city, and he had to travel all night to reach it. He bowed to his mother, who lived with him in a thatched cottage with a thatched shed outside. His mother occupying the front room and his wife the back one. His wife was the daughter of a butcher Hugh of the market. Fan Chen's mother and wife were delighted by his success. They were preparing a meal when his father-in-law arrived, bringing pork sausages and a bottle of wine. Fan Chen greeted him, and they sat down together. "Since I have the bad luck to marry my daughter to a scarecrow like you," said Butcher Hugh, "heaven knows how much you have cost me. Now I must have done some good deed to make you pass the examination. I brought this wine to celebrate." Fan Chen assented meekly, and called his wife to cook the sausages and warm the wine. He and his father-in-law sat in the thatched shed while his mother and wife prepared food in the kitchen. "Now that you have become a gentleman," went on Butcher Hugh, "you must do things in the proper style. Of course, men in your profession are decent, high-class people, and I am your elder too. You mustn't put on any airs before me. But these peasants round here, dung carriers and the like, are low people. If you greet me and treat me as their equals, that will be a breach of etiquette, and you will make me lose face too. You're such an easygoing, good-for-nothing fellow. I'm telling you this for your own good, so that you won't make a laughing stock of yourself." "Your advice is quite right, father," replied Fan Chen. "Let your mother eat with us too," went on Butcher Hugh. "She has only vegetables usually. It's a shame. Let my daughter join us too. She can't have tasted lard for more than 2 or 3 times since you married her a dozen years ago, the poor thing." So Fan Chen's mother and wife sat down to share the meal with him. They ate until sunset, by which time Butcher Hugh was tipsy. Mother and son thanked him profusely. Then, throwing his jacket over his shoulder, the butcher staggered home bloated. The next day, Fan Chen had to call on relatives and friends. Wei Hao Q invited him to meet some other fellow candidates. And since it was the year of the provincial examination, they had a number of literary meetings. Soon it was the end of the 6th month. Fan Chen's fellow candidates asked him to go with him to the provincial capital for the examination. But he had no money for the journey. He went to ask his father-in-law to help. Butcher Hugh spat on his face and poured out a torrent of abuse. "Don't be a fool," he roared. "Just passing one examination has turned your head completely. You're like a toad trying to swallow a swan, and I hear you scraping through not because of your essays, but because the examiner pitied you for being so old. Now, like a fool, you want to pass the higher examination and become an official, but you know who those officials are. They're all stars in heaven. Look at the Chang family in the city. All those officials have pots of money, dignified faces, and big fat ears, but your mouth sticks out and you have a chin like an ape. You should piss on the ground and look at your face in the puddle. You look like a monkey and you want to become an official. Come off it. Next year I shall find you a teaching job for one of my friends so that you can make a few taels of silver to support that old, never-dying mother of yours and your stupid wife, and it's a high time you did. Yet you ask me for travelling expenses? I kill just one pig a day and only make 10 cents per pig. If I give you all my silver to play ducks and drakes with, then my family will have air to live on." The butcher went on cursing at full blast till Fan Chin's head spun. When he got home again, he thought to himself, Commissioner Chow said I showed maturity, and from this ancient times till now, whoever passed the first examination without going in for the second, I shan't rest easily until I've taken it. So he asked his fellow candidates to help him, and went to the city without telling his father-in-law to take the examination. When the examination was over, he returned home, only to find that his family had no food for 2 days, and Butcher Hugh cursed him again. The day the results came out, there was nothing to eat in the house, and Fan Chin's mother told him, "Take that hen of mine to the market and sell it, then buy a few measures of rice to make gruel. I'm faint with hunger." Fan Chin tucked the hen under his arm and hurried out. He had only been gone an hour when the gong sounded and the 3 horsemen galloped up. They alighted, tethered their horses to the shed, and called out, Where is the Honourable Fan? Where is the Honourable Mr. Fan? We have come to congratulate him on passing the provincial examination." Not knowing what had happened, Fan Chin's mother had hidden herself in the house for fear. But when she heard that he had passed, she plucked up the courage to poke her head out and say, "Please come in and sit down. My son has gone out." "Oh, this old lady," said the heralds, and they pressed forward to demand a tip. In the midst of this excitement, 2 more batches of horsemen arrived. Some squeezed inside, while the others packed themselves into the shed, where they had to sit on the ground. Neighbours gathered around too to watch, and the flustered old lady asked one of them to go look for her son. The neighbour ran to the marketplace, while Fan Chin was nowhere to be seen. Only when he reached the east and the market did he discover the scholar, clutching the hen tightly against his chest and holding a sale sign in one hand. Fan Chin was pacing slowly along, looking right and left for the customer. "Go home, Mr. Fan," cried the neighbour. "Congratulations! You passed the provincial examination! Your house is full of heralds!" Thinking this fellow was making fun of him, Fan Chin pretended not to hear, walked forward and lowered his head. Seeing that he paid no attention, the neighbour went up to him and tried to grab the hen. "Why are you taking my hen?" protested Fan Chin. "You don't want to buy it!" You passed!" insisted the neighbour. They want you to go home to send off the heralds." "Good neighbour," said Fan Chin. "We have no rice left at home, so I have to sell this hen. It's a matter of life and death, so this is no time for jokes. Do go away so as not to spoil my chance of a sale." When the neighbour saw that Fan Chin did not believe him, he seized the hen, threw it on the ground, and dragged the scholar back by main force to his home. The heralds cried, "Oh, good God, the newly honoured one is back!" They pressed forward to congratulate him, but Fan Chin brushed past them into the house to look at the official announcement already hung up, which read,
This is an announcement that the master of your honourable mansion, Fan Chin, has passed the provincial examination in Kwantung, coming 7th on the list. May better news follow in rapid succession.
Fan Chin feasted his eyes on this announcement, and, after reading through it once to himself, read it once more aloud. Clapping his hands, he laughed and exclaimed, "I passed!" Then, stepping back, he fell down in a dead faint. His mother hastily poured some boiled water between his lips, whereupon he recovered consciousness and struggled to his feet. Clapping his hands again, he let out a peal of laughter and shouted, "Ah! I passed! I passed!" Laughing wildly, he ran outside, giving the heralds and the neighbours the fright of their lives. Not far from the front door, he slipped and fell into a pond.
When he clambered out, his hair was disheveled, his hands muddied, and his whole body dripping with slime. But nobody could stop him. Still clapping his hands and laughing, he headed straight for the market. They all looked at each other in consternation and said, the new honor has sent him off his head. His mother wailed, "Aren't we in luck? Why should passing an examination do this to him? Now he's mad, goodness knows when he'll be better." "He was all right this morning when he went out," said his wife. "What could have brought on this attack? What shall we do?" The neighbors consoled him. "Don't be upset," they said. "We'll send a couple of men to keep an eye on Mr. Fan. And we'll all bring wine and eggs and rice for these heralds. And then we can discuss what's to be done." The neighbors brought eggs or wine, lugged along sacks of rice, or carried over chickens. Fan Chin's wife wailed as she prepared the food in the kitchen. Then she took it to the shed. Neighbors brought tables and stools, and they asked the heralds to sit down to a meal while they discussed what to do. "I have an idea," said one of the heralds, "but I don't know whether it will work or not." "What idea?" they asked. There must be someone the Honorable Mr. Fan usually stands in awe of," said the herald. "He's only been thrown off his balance because sudden joy made him choke on his phlegm. If you can get someone he's afraid of to slap him in the face and say, 'It's all a joke, you haven't passed any examination,' then the fright will make him cough up his phlegm and he'll come to his senses again." They all clapped their hands and said, "That's a fine idea. Mr. Fan is more afraid of Butcher Chan than anyone else. Let's hurry up and fetch him. He's probably still in the market and hasn't yet heard of the news." "If he was selling meat in the market, he would have heard the news by now," said the neighbor. "He went out at dawn to the East Market to fetch pigs, and he can't have come back yet. Someone had better go quickly to find him." One of the neighbors hurried off in search of the butcher, and presently met him on the road, followed by an assistant, who was carrying 7 or 8 caddies of meat and 4 or 5 strings of cash. Butcher Hugh was coming to offer his congratulations. Fan Chin's mother, crying bitterly, told him what had happened. "How could he be so unlucky?" exclaimed the butcher. They were calling for him outside, so he gave the meat and the money to his daughter and went out. The heralds put their plan before him, but Butcher Hugh demurred. "He may be my son-in-law," he said, "but he's an official now. He's one of the stars in heaven. I've heard that whoever hits the stars in heaven will be carried away by the king of hell, given 100 strokes of an iron rod and shut up in the 8th hell, never to become a human being again. I daren't do a thing like that." "Mr. Hugh," cried the sarcastic neighbor, "you make your living by killing pigs. Every day the plague goes in the white and comes out red. All the blood you shed, the king of hell must have marked you down for several thousand strokes by iron rods. So what does it matter if he adds 100 more? Quite likely he will have used up all his iron rods before getting around to beating you for this one anyway. Or maybe, if you cure your son-in-law, the king of hell may consider that you did a good deed and promote you from the 8th hell to the 7th. This is no time for joking," said one of the heralds. "This is the only way to handle it, Mr. Hu. There's nothing else for it, so please don't make difficulties." Butcher Hugh just had to give in. 2 bowls of wine bolstered up his courage, making him lose his scruples and start his usual rampaging. Rolling up his greasy sleeves, he strode out towards the market, followed by small groups of neighbors. Fan Chin's mother ran out and called after him. "Just frighten him a little. Mind you don't hurt him." "Of course," the neighbors reassured him. "That goes without saying." Then they reached the market. They found Fan Chin standing in the doorway of a temple. His hair was tousled, his face streaked with mud, and one of his shoes had come off. But he was still clapping his hands and crowing, "Ah! I passed! I passed!" Butcher Hugh bore on him like an avenging fury, roaring, "You blasted idiot, why have you passed?" and fetched him a blow. The bystanders and neighbors could hardly suppress their laughter. But although Butcher Hugh had screwed up his courage to strike once, he was still afraid at heart, and his face was trembling too much to strike a second time. The one blow, however, had been enough to knock Fan Chin out. The neighbors pressed round to rub Fan Chin's chest and massage his back, until presently he gave a sigh and came to. His eyes were clear, and his madness was past. They helped him up and borrowed a bench from Apothecary Chin, a hunchback who lived hard by the temple, so that Fan Chin might sit down. Butcher Hugh, who was standing a little way off, felt his head begin to ache. When he raised his palm, he found it to his dismay he could not bend it. It's true, then, that you mustn't strike the stars in heaven, he thought. Now Buddha's punishing me. The more he thought about it, the worse his hand hurt, and asked the apothecary to give him some ointment. Meanwhile, Fan was looking around and asking, How did I come to be sitting here? Meanwhile, Fan was looking around and asking, How did I come to be sitting here? My mind was in a whirl, as if in a dream. How did I come to be sitting here? And he said, Congratulations, sir, on having passed the examination. A short time ago, in your happiness, you brought some phlegm, but just now, you spat out several mouthfuls and recovered. Please go quickly to send away the heralds. That's right, Fanshin said. But I seem to remember coming 7th in the list. As he was speaking, he fastened up his hair and asked the apothecary for a basin of water to wash his face. One of the neighbors found his shoe and helped him put it on. The sight of his father-in-law made Fanshin afraid that he was in for another cursing. But Butcher Hugh stepped forward and said, Worthy son of mine, I would never have presumed to slap you just now, if not for your mother. She sent me to help you. That was what I call a friendly slap, said one of the neighbors. Wait till Mr. Fan finishes washing his face. I bet he can easily wash off half a basin of lard. Mr. Hugh, said another, this hand of yours will be too good to kill pigs anymore. No, indeed, said the butcher. Why should I go on killing pigs? My worthy son-in-law will be able to support me in style for the rest of my life. I always said that this worthy son-in-law of mine was very learned and incredibly handsome, and not one of those Chang and Chow family officials in the city. Looked so much a fine gentleman. I have always been a good judge of character, I don't mind telling you. Now my daughter stayed home till she was more than 30, although many rich families wanted to marry her to their sons, but I saw signs of good fortune in her face, and I knew that she would end up marrying an official. You see today how right I was. He gave a great guffaw, and they all started to laugh. When Fanshin had washed and drunk the tea brought him by the apothecary, they all started back. Fanshin in front, Butcher Hugh and the neighbors behind. The butcher, noticing that the seat of his son-in-law's gown was crumpled, kept bending forward all the way home to tug out the creases for him. When they reached Fanshin's house, Butcher Hugh shouted, The master is back! Then the old lady came out to greet them, and he was overjoyed to find her son no longer mad. The heralds, she told them, had already been sent off with the money that Butcher Hugh had brought. Fanshin bowed to his mother and thanked his father-in-law, making Butcher Hugh so embarrassed that he muttered, That bit of money was nothing. After thanking the neighbors too, Fanshin was just going to sit down when a smart-looking retainer hurried in, holding his big red card, and announced, Mr. Chang has come to pay his respects to the newly successful Mr. Fan. By this time, the seat and chair was already at the door. Butcher Hugh dived into his daughter's room and dared not come out, while the neighbors scattered in all directions. Fanshin went out to welcome the visitor, who was one of the local gentry, and Mr. Chan alighted from the chair and came in. He was wearing an official gauze cap, sunflower-colored gown, gilt belt, and black shoes. He was a provincial graduate and had served as a magistrate in his time. His name was Chang Chin Chai. He and Fanshin made way for each other ceremoniously, and once inside the house, bowed to each other as equals, and sat down in the place of guest and host. Mr. Chang began the conversation. Sir, he said, although we live in the same district, I have never been able to call on you. I have long respected you, replied Fanshin, but I have never had the chance to pay you a visit. Just now I saw the list of successful candidates. Your patron, Mr. Tang, was a pupil of my grandfather, so I feel very close to you. I did not deserve to pass, I'm afraid, said Mr. Fanshin, but I am delighted to be a pupil of one of your family. After a glance around the room, Mr. Chang remarked, Sir, you were certainly frugal. He took from his servant a packet of silver and stated, I brought nothing to show my respect, except these 50 taels of silver, which I beg you to accept. Your honourable home is not good enough for you, and it will not be very convenient
when you have many callers. I have an empty house on the main street by the east gate, which has 3 courtyards with 3 rooms in each. Although it is not big, it is quite clean. Allow me to present it to you. When you have moved there, I can profit by your instruction more easily." Fan Chin declined many times, but Mr. Chan pressed him. "With all we have in common, we should be like brothers," he said. "But if you refuse, aren't you treating me like a stranger?" Then Fan Chin accepted the silver and expressed his thanks. After some more conversation, they bowed and parted. Not until the visitor was in his chair did Butcher Hugh dare to emerge. Fan Chin gave the silver to his wife. When she opened it, and they saw the white ingots with their fine markings, he asked Butcher Hugh to come in and gave 2 ingots, saying, "Just now, I have troubled you for 5,000 coppers. Please accept these 6 taels of silver." Butcher Hugh gripped the silver tight, but thrust out his clenched fist, saying, "You keep it. I gave you that money to congratulate you, so how can I take it back?" "I have some more silver here," said Fan Chin. "When it is spent, I will ask you for more." Butcher Hugh immediately drew back his fist and stuffed the silver into his pockets and said, "All right, now that you are on good terms with that Mr. Chang, you needn't be afraid of going short. His family has more silver than the Emperor, and they are my best customers. Every year, even if they have no particular occasions to celebrate, they will buy 4,000 or 5,000 catties of meat. Silver is nothing to him." Then he turned to his daughter and said, "Oh, you rascally brother didn't want me to bring that money this morning. I told him, now my honourable son-in-law is not the man he was. There will be lots of people sending him presents of money. I am only afraid he may refuse my gift. Wasn't I right? Now I shall take this silver home and curse that dirty scoundrel." After 1,000 thanks, he made off. His head thrust forward and a broad grin was on his face. True enough, many people came to Fan Chin after that and made him presents of land and shops, while some poor couples came to serve him in return for his protection. In 2 or 3 months, he had men servants and maid servants, to say nothing of money and rice. When Mr. Chan came again to urge him, he moved into the new house, and for 3 days he entertained guests with feasts and operas. On the morning of the 4th day, while Fan Chin's mother had got up and had breakfast, she went to the rooms in the back courtyard. There she found Fan Chin's wife with a silver pin in her hair. Although this was the middle of the 10th month, it was still warm, and she was wearing a sky blue silk tunic and a green silk skirt. She was supervising the maids as they washed bowls, cups, plates, and chopsticks. "You must be very careful," the old lady warned them. "These things don't belong to us, so don't break them." "How can you say that they don't belong to you, madam?" they asked. "They are all yours." No, these aren't ours," she protested with a smile. "Oh, yes, they are," the maids cried. "And not only these things, but all of us servants, and this house belongs to you." When the old lady heard this, she picked up the fine porcelain and the cups and chopsticks inlaid with silver and examined them carefully one by one. Then she went into a fit of laughter. "All mine!" she cried. Screaming with laughter, she fell backwards, choked, and lost consciousness. But to know what became of the old lady, you must read the next chapter.